I'm Leon Lovelace, and this is Unstoppable Force. Got a news story for you, and it's from Reuters, and it's about how people in Kenya are having to share river water. Okay. Kalina Ol Nicole helps efforts to share river water in the Ewaso and Nerio South Basin in Kenya's Rift Valley will help avoid the violence that has erupted elsewhere between herders and farmers as drought crisis shrinks pasture. But he is sure there will be competition for water in the near future. Old Cole is the chair of 12 associations for water users along the Nkari Narok tributary south of Nairobi, which try to use a scarce resource wisely, complementing the work of 9 groups in the main Ewaso and Nerio River. Together, they cover a 188 kilometer or 117 mile stretch that flows into Lake Naturon near the Kenya-Tanzania border. On each river, there is a center that trains and supports the association's members, hosting private community farms to carry out water conservation activities. Old Cole said the centers advise farmers not to cultivate crops near the river, but to plant trees along its banks instead. This helps prevent soil erosion that will eventually block the river with sediment and alter its course, inconveniencing people downstream. Fair sharing of natural resources is key to keeping the peace among communities that depend on the river, he added. When using the river, you must be mindful of other people who are also using it, including wild animals, or else there'll be trouble. So I want to talk about this because it's an important issue that's going on, because as we've just continuously damaged our environment with all the conveniences of, fossil fuel use for our cars, so on and so forth. We're getting a lot more droughts in some places, and then in different places they're getting more flooding. And in the places where you have more droughts, of course, you have to share the water with your fellow residents and people, nearby and even farther away, just depending on the water situation. So it's just showing that we have a lot of work to do, because as Americans, we just like to consume. Partially that's society or the establishment pushing that narrative, because that's how they make money, is by people being pushed to buy things. But we just gotta just really pay attention to this, because this issue is just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse as long as we're not able to really pull back on a lot of the fossil fuel use we're using. And also with over farming and the overuse of agriculture, and using too much, eating too much beef, and having, farmers, excessively have to, when farmers have to excessively use or convert wild habitats into farmland and just grazing pasture, that's not good for the environment. And even though this is in Kenya, the people in Kenya matter, because the world is a lot bigger than just the United States. So we need to look for and talk about any problems that people in other nations are having. So I'm trying to cover a little more international news. And also because these issues are also coming here to the United States too, because of course there's plenty of other communities in the United States where they're having more droughts, so people are going to have to cut back on water. Another thing is we really need to push the industries. Got to push our politicians to push the industries to use less water, because in fact the biggest use of the water source, the clean water source in the United States, it's actually industry and agriculture. Growing our crops uses a ton of water, especially since a lot of the farms, especially the big corporations that have all these massive farms, they're using a lot of the water. So they really need the government really needs to push them into being able to, grow the same amount of crops using a little bit less water, and really cutting it down so they could use quite a bit less water to grow the same amount of crops. There are a few techniques that these big farm companies can use and start implementing, so they can use less water. So everybody else, people in the natural environment, can use the water too, because A lot of you know there's only about 3% of the water on the earth is fresh water. About 97% is salty, so of course we can't really use it. There's some communities that use salt water and convert it into fresh water by taking the salt out. But it's a really expensive process, and it's not realistic if you don't live near the coast. And then that's just one thing that in the United States we don't really need to do, but it could possibly be something that communities on the shoreline will have to start doing if we keep on having more and more or increasing water problems as the years go on. So love you guys, and I'll catch you later.